Okay, great. So our project mainly about the world happiness. So we collected the data from the 2015 to 2022. So this data set contains lots of features that could potentially affect the happiness. And we are trying to find the factors that could determine the happiness around the world. So I think, David, you can get started.
Okay, so I'm David, and our main hypothesis is that the happiness scores are determined by freedom, trust score, and economy. And so at the beginning, here's our data that we cleaned up and put it into one big data frame with all of it from the 7 different years. And so if you scroll down to my chart, I compared the economy score, the GDP per capita, and the happiness score. And so if you scroll down a bit more, you can see the graph where I plotted all of the different scores of the GDP per capita versus the happiness score. And you can also see that there is a trend where different regions are grouped together. So I wanted to make sure that the overall positive correlation stayed true when you controlled for region. So if you scroll down more, you can see that the trend stays true with economy score being directly correlated to economy. And so I'll pass it on to Rida.
All right, hi, I'm Rida, and my section focused specifically on visualizing the effect of region, year, and corruption on happiness, or also known as trust in government. So to start off by creating this visualization, the entire data frame was used, and a scatter plot matrix was made to compare 3 different relationships, including year and its impact on happiness score, year versus trust score, and then the correlation between trust versus happiness score. So as you can see in the matrix, the results did not indicate much for the correlation between year and happiness score. It stayed consistent throughout the 8 years that we explored. But on the other hand, we have the happiness versus trust score as well. And even then, even though we hypothesized differently, there was no correlation found there. But with that, we could clearly see that regional colors that we use to distinguish between the different data points, there's a trend that we can notice here. So to further look into this trend that we found by accident, actually, I did a bar chart breakdown on global happiness by region. So after considering this data to create the bar chart, Pandas was used to create a subset of the main data frame, only representing data from each year. And from there, the data was grouped by region, and the happiness scores from every region were averaged in order to better represent the happiness by region. So according to the graphs, we can see a common trend in which regions tend to have higher happiness scores and which ones usually scored lower. So every year, Western Europe and North America had the highest average happiness scores for their region, and for the most part, Australia and New Zealand followed suit. On the other hand, South Asian and African regions consistently showed lowest average happiness scores. So overall, region has a big hold on people's overall happiness, and some of the reason behind this can be connected to the economic state, as David previously touched upon. So the higher scoring regions tended to be first world countries, while the lower scoring regions were third world. This indicates that an important factor that determines a person's overall happiness could be stability within their region, and in places that have a less stable economy, happiness scores tended to falter. And from that, I also decided to make a choropleth map visualization for the year 2022. So in this map, we used Pi Country library to get the ISO codes for each country, and this was used to pass into the map and to determine the location of the data, while happiness scores was used to determine the color given to the scale you can see on the right. And this map basically lets us visualize the same data we found in the bar charts, and it reaffirms the conclusions while also letting you better visualize how each country's fit within the region. And from there, I'll pass it off to Faylinn to talk about her section.
Okay, so my section, I look at the relationship between happiness scores and freedom scores. I use Plotly to create a scatter plot colored by year to help visualize this correlation. As you can see, the scatter plot itself doesn't have too strong of a positive correlation, but I added a line of best fit so you can see it more clearly. But just in case, I also made a dist plot to show the distribution at the bottom. So I found that the average mean of the freedom for every country was around 0.5. So as you can see, the green are the countries with a freedom score less than the mean, and then the pink is the countries with a freedom score greater than the mean. And then you can see that the countries with more freedom tend to do have a higher happiness scores as they're more distributed to the right. So we can conclude that countries with more freedom do tend to be happier. And then for our conclusions, we said that our findings support our hypothesis in general. We just looked at the relationship between freedom and happiness. As you can see, we said it supported that. And then looking at the economy via happiness score, it is very clear that there is a strong positive relationship between the two factors. Additionally, when controlling for region, the same positive correlation is present. This supports the main hypothesis. However, when it came to the influence of trust score on happiness, our hypothesis was incorrect. No correlation was found when comparing trust to happiness, so trust does not have any sort of influence on happiness. Similarly, we were incorrect about the influence of each year, as instead of showing any increase or decrease, global happiness remained consistent over the 8 years. Additionally, we found that the region played a major role in happiness, which connects back to the economic influence discussed earlier, as regions in less developed places tended to score lower than the first world countries. And that basically concludes our presentation.
Yeah, I think that's all for our work.